The power of mental discipline. Have you ever felt like something invisible was holding you back? Like no matter how much effort you put in, you keep hitting the same wall? Here's a truth most people never fully realize. Your mind is your most powerful tool, not your background, not your resources, not even your talents. It all starts and ends with your mindset. We often talk about limitations as if they're set in stone, but the hardest ones to break aren't physical or external. They're the ones we build inside our own heads through fear, doubt, and habit. We say things like, I can't, it's too late, or I'm not good enough, and we believe them. Not because they're true, but because we've practiced believing them for too long. Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic emperor, once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This isn't just ancient wisdom. Modern psychology agrees. The way you think literally rewires your brain. But let's be clear. Mental discipline isn't about forcing yourself into rigid control. It's not about becoming a robot or suppressing your feelings. It's about building awareness. It's about creating the space between what happens and how you respond. It's about choice, choosing the higher path even when your emotions beg you to react. Ask yourself this: when was the last time you felt overwhelmed, not by what actually happened, but by how you interpreted it? That's where mental discipline comes in. It teaches you to slow down, to breathe, to zoom out, to remind yourself, this isn't the end. This is a moment, and I have power over what happens next. Mental discipline is like training a muscle. The more you practice, the stronger it gets. At first, it might feel hard to sit with discomfort, to delay gratification, or to stop the spiral of negative thinking. But over time, those choices start to feel more natural. You start to build confidence, not because life got easier, but because you got stronger. Becoming limitless isn't about doing everything perfectly. It's not about having all the answers. It's about becoming someone who keeps showing up, who learns from setbacks, who leads themselves from within. Because no matter where you're starting from, there's one truth that applies to every single one of us. You can train your mind. And when you do, you change your life. So as we begin this journey together, remember this isn't about hype. This is about transformation. And it starts with one powerful decision: to take back your mind, one thought at a time. Let's begin. Part 1. Awareness is the first step before you can change anything. Your mindset, your habits, your results. You need to see it. And I don't mean just seeing with your eyes. I mean noticing, observing, becoming conscious of what's happening inside your mind in real time. Let me ask you this. How often do you move through your day on autopilot? You wake up, check your phone, dive into tasks, respond to messages, react to stress, and before you know it, the day's over. But somewhere in the background, your mind is running scripts you didn't consciously write. Maybe it's, I'm not doing enough, or why am I not where they are, or I always mess this up. These patterns can feel invisible, but here's the truth. You can't change what you're not aware of. And that's why the first step to training your mind and unlocking your potential is awareness. Awareness isn't about judging yourself. It's not about labeling your thoughts as good or bad. It's about watching them like clouds passing through the sky. You're not the storm. You're the sky behind it. One of the most powerful practices you can begin today is mindfulness. The simple act of observing your thoughts without reacting to them. It's like shining a flashlight into the corners of your mind. You begin to notice what's really driving your emotions, your decisions, your energy. Start asking yourself, are these thoughts building me up or slowly breaking me down? Are they rooted in truth or in fear, comparison, or old wounds? For example, you might catch yourself scrolling through social media and suddenly feeling off, not because of anything you saw directly, but because your mind quietly whispered, "You're behind." That's awareness, that tiny moment where you hear the voice instead of becoming it. And that's the power, because once you're aware, you get to choose. You can choose to pause. You can choose to breathe. You can choose a different response, a better thought, a stronger belief. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." If your thoughts are unconscious, your life becomes shaped by reactions you didn't even choose. But if you train your awareness, your soul becomes clearer, stronger, more aligned with who you truly are. So here's a challenge. Spend just 5 minutes a day simply noticing. Notice the way your mind talks to you when you're tired, frustrated, or doubting yourself. Notice the habits, mental or emotional, that repeat like background noise. This isn't about perfection, it's about noticing. Because once you notice, you interrupt the automatic. And in that space, you begin to reclaim your power. Over time, you'll stop being a passenger in your own mind. You'll become the driver. And that's where true mental strength begins. Not with willpower, but with awareness. So the next time you feel stuck, don't ask, "What should I do?" First ask, "What am I noticing?" That one question could quietly change everything. Part 2. Thought is creative energy. What if I told you that every thought you think is a form of energy? Not just abstract noise, but a signal you're constantly sending into your body, your emotions, and your future. Here's the truth. Your thoughts are not passive. They shape your perception, direct your actions, and over time become the architecture of your identity. Every time you think, you're training your mind, and that training has a cost or a reward. If you repeatedly think, "I'm not good enough," or "it's too late for me," your brain adapts to that narrative. It literally starts filtering your world through a lens of defeat. Your confidence drops. Your energy fades. Your actions shrink. But if you shift that inner dialogue, even slightly, you ignite something different, a spark of courage, a glimpse of possibility, a reason to try one more time. As the Stoics would say, we become what we repeatedly do. But before doing comes thinking, and what you repeatedly think, that's where your life quietly starts. Here's something most people don't realize. Negative self-talk doesn't just hurt your feelings. It weakens your willpower. It chips away at your ability to stay consistent, to push through discomfort, to act with purpose. Imagine going into a challenge with the inner voice whispering, "This is too hard. I'll probably fail. I'm not cut out for this." Would you feel strong, motivated, focused? Of course not. Now flip the script. Imagine facing the same challenge with a different thought. "This is tough, but I've done hard things before. I don't know how yet, but I'm willing to learn. Even small progress today will move me forward." That shift in thought doesn't just change how you feel, it changes what you do. And over time, what you do changes who you become. So here's a practical exercise, one of the most powerful mindset habits you can start today. When you catch yourself saying, "I can't," gently replace it with, "I'm learning how." I can't stay calm when I'm overwhelmed. I'm learning how to regulate my emotions. I can't be confident in front of people. I'm learning how to speak with more presence. I can't break this habit. I'm learning how to be consistent one small step at a time. Do you feel the difference? It's subtle, but it's everything. You're not pretending. You're not sugarcoating reality. You're simply reframing it in a way that fuels movement, not fear. Thoughts are like seeds. If you plant self-doubt, you harvest hesitation. If you plant courage, you grow resilience. The question is, what are you planting every day in your mind? So take a moment to reflect. What's one limiting thought you've been believing lately? And what empowering truth could you replace it with? Your mind listens to what you say. Speak wisely, train kindly, and over time, you don't just think stronger, you live stronger. Part 3. Focus is your mental currency. Let me ask you something simple but powerful. What has your attention right now? Because whatever you're focused on is what you're feeding. And like it or not, your focus is your most valuable mental currency. In today's world, attention is the new gold. Companies fight for it. Apps are designed to hijack it. And most people, without realizing it, spend their attention like it's endless. But it's not. Every time you check your phone mindlessly, every time you get pulled into another piece of drama, every time you multitask instead of being present, you're not just losing time. You're draining clarity. You're weakening your ability to think deeply. You're spending your inner wealth on things that don't matter. Here's the truth. What you focus on expands. And if you constantly focus on distractions, comparison, fear, or noise, that's exactly what multiplies in your mind. But when you train your focus, everything changes. You sharpen your attention like a blade. You stop reacting to every little thing and start acting with intention. You take back control, not just of your time, but of your mind. The Stoics believed in this discipline deeply. They taught us that to live a good life, we must learn to guard our mind as we guard our wealth. Because a scattered mind is a powerless one, but a focused mind, that's a force of nature. So how do we do it? Start by setting daily intentions. Before you dive into the chaos of the day, pause. Ask yourself, what matters most to me today? Where do I want my energy to go? This one small habit sets the tone for your mind. It helps you say no to what doesn't matter and a stronger yes to what truly does. And here's a practical tip. Turn off your notifications. Seriously, protect your brain from the constant buzz of artificial urgency. Silence the apps, the alerts, the noise. When you're doing deep work, let it be deep. When you're resting, let yourself rest fully. Don't let your phone decide how you live your life, because each moment of focused attention builds mental strength. Each time you resist distraction, you reclaim more of your mind. So let me ask you again, what has your attention today? Is it aligned with your values, or is it just noise? Over time, where your focus goes, your life follows. So choose wisely. Spend your attention like it matters, because it does. And the more you train it, the more powerful and peaceful your mind becomes. Part 4. Choose response over reaction. Have you ever said something in the heat of the moment and regretted it seconds later? We all have. That sharp comment, that impulsive action, that emotional outburst, it feels powerful in the moment. But afterward, it often leaves behind a trail of damage, inside and out. Here's the hard truth. Emotional reactivity isn't strength. It's a form of mental weakness. It means we've handed over control of our mind to the chaos of the moment. But what if you didn't have to live that way? What if every time you felt triggered by a rude comment, a stressful situation, or even your own fears, you could pause, breathe, observe, and choose your response, consciously and calmly? That, my friend, is mental discipline in action. That's where true strength lives. Not in forceful reaction, but in thoughtful restraint. The Stoics knew this deeply. They taught that we are not disturbed by things, but by the views we take of them. In other words, the event doesn't control you. Your interpretation of it does. And in that space between stimulus and response lies your power. This is where the sacred pause becomes your secret weapon. It's a practice, a habit of slowing down just long enough to reclaim your center. Let's say someone cuts you off in traffic. Your body tightens. Anger rises. But instead of slamming the horn or yelling at your windshield, you take one breath. You recognize the feeling. And then you remind yourself, this is not about me. I choose peace. Or maybe you're in a tense conversation. Someone says something that pushes your buttons. The old version of you might fire back, defend, or shut down. But the wiser you, the trained mind, pauses. You don't react. You respond with clarity, not chaos. That pause is where emotional strength is built. It's like going to the gym, but for your inner world. Every time you delay a reaction and choose a response, you're lifting a heavier weight. And over time, you get stronger, wiser, calmer, because the world will always test you. People will frustrate you. Life will throw curveballs. But how you respond, that's your arena of power. This doesn't mean you suppress emotions. It means you own them without letting them own you. It means learning to say, I feel the anger, but I don't let it drive the car. I feel fear, but I don't let it dictate my choices. I feel pain, but I don't let it poison my perspective. This is the heart of a Stoic emotional mastery. Control what you can, your thoughts, your actions, your values, and accept what you can't. Other people, outcomes, chaos. So the next time you feel triggered, remember, you are not your reaction. You are the awareness behind it. And in that awareness, you hold the power to choose again and again. That's how you build a mind that doesn't just survive, but leads with intention, with strength, with peace. Part 5, Train in Discomfort. Let's be honest. Comfort feels good. It's warm. It's easy. It's safe. But here's the paradox. Comfort rarely changes you. In fact, it often keeps you small. Growth, real, lasting growth, usually begins where comfort ends. And that's why if you want to build a strong mind, you need to start doing something that might feel counterintuitive. Choose discomfort on purpose every single day. Think about it. The strongest people you admire, mentally, emotionally, physically, they didn't get there by accident. They trained. They struggled. They stretched themselves when no one was watching. Why? Because they understood this truth. If you only do what's easy, life eventually becomes hard. But if you regularly do what's hard, life starts to become easier. This is what the Stoics practice. They called it voluntary discomfort. It wasn't about self-punishment. It was about training the mind to stop fearing what's uncomfortable. Because discomfort is life's greatest teacher. Simple examples. Take a cold shower. Yes, it's uncomfortable, but you're not doing it to torture yourself. You're doing it to teach your brain, I can handle this. I don't panic. I stay steady. Or have that honest conversation you've been avoiding. It might be awkward, even scary, but discomfort in that moment builds courage for the rest of your life. Or maybe you stick to a disciplined routine, waking up early, saying no to temptations, sticking to your workout even when you're tired. It's not glamorous, but every act of self-discipline tells your subconscious, I follow through. I don't need to feel motivated to show up. And here's the deeper truth. Discomfort shows you who you are and who you're becoming. It strips away the fluff. It reveals the part of you that's still alive, still growing, still hungry to rise. When you choose discomfort, you stop running from fear and you start walking towards strength. Because it's not about being fearless, it's about being familiar with fear and not letting it dictate your life. So let me ask you, where in your life have you gotten too comfortable? What discomfort are you avoiding that might actually be the doorway to your next level? Remember, you don't need to take huge leaps. Start small. Sit in stillness when your mind wants distraction. Say no when your habits beg you to give in. Stand tall when your old self wants to shrink. Each moment of discomfort is a rep. Each rep builds grit, and grit becomes freedom. Because the more you train yourself to do hard things, the more unshakable you become. And when you're unshakable, no one can take that power from you. So train in discomfort. It's not pain for the sake of pain. It's a portal, a passage into the version of you that isn't just surviving, but thriving. Part 6. Identity follows repetition. Let me ask you something simple, but profound. Who are you becoming? Not who you were yesterday, not who you pretend to be on the outside, but who you are, quietly, consistently, through your actions, habits, and choices. Because here's the truth we often forget. Your identity isn't fixed. It's not something you're born with. It's something you build, brick by brick, action by action, day by day. You don't wake up one morning suddenly disciplined, confident, or calm. You become that person slowly by repeating behaviors that shape who you believe you are. That's why Stoic philosophy teaches us not to be obsessed with appearances or even momentary feelings. Instead, it focuses on consistent, virtuous action. Do what's right repeatedly. Act with courage repeatedly. Face discomfort repeatedly. And over time, your identity will follow. Think of it like this. Every time you do something hard instead of giving in, you cast a vote for the person you want to become. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you strengthen that invisible thread called self-trust. So what do you say to yourself every day? Be honest. Do you think in terms of, I'm lazy, I always quit, I'm not good with pressure? If so, those thoughts repeated become part of your identity. But here's the shift. You can change that story by changing the script. Start speaking to yourself with intention, not fake praise, but with identity-shaping truth. Say, I am resilient. I am disciplined. I do hard things even when I don't feel like it. And then back those words with action. Because the most powerful I am statements are not said, they're lived. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be consistent. That's the golden rule of identity. It's not about talent. It's not even about belief. It's about showing up one small choice at a time. Want to be calm under pressure? Practice breathing through discomfort. Want to be someone who values health? Make the workout non-negotiable. Want to be a confident speaker? Start speaking, even if your voice shakes. And when your actions begin to line up with your intention, something beautiful happens. Your identity starts catching up with your vision because repetition is how your brain learns. But it's also how your soul remembers. This is who I am now. So if you've ever felt stuck in a version of yourself you don't like, just remember, you're never trapped. You're just in a pattern, and patterns can be changed. It doesn't happen overnight, but it does happen daily. Your habits are the architecture of your future self. Build wisely, repeat intentionally, and trust the process. You're not pretending to be someone new. You're practicing who you were always meant to become. Part 7. Think in long term. Let me ask you a question that might shift the way you live today. Are you making decisions based on who you are or who you want to become? Because here's the hard truth. Most people live for now, The next dopamine hit, the quick comfort, the easy escape. But anything truly meaningful, resilience, wisdom, self-mastery, doesn't happen in the short term. It grows slowly, in silence, through repetition, sacrifice, and patience. This is why one of the greatest skills you can ever train is this. Think in years, not minutes. Choose your future self over your current mood. Stoicism teaches us to live with intention, not impulse. To pause and ask, will this serve me in the long run? Because what feels good now might cost you later, and what feels hard now might build you into someone stronger. Every time you skip the gym, scroll instead of sleep, or avoid a hard conversation, you're not just making a random choice. You're casting a vote for the kind of person you're becoming. Likewise, when you choose discomfort today for growth tomorrow, when you save money instead of spending it all, when you sit down to create instead of consume, you're telling your future self, I've got your back. So what kind of life do you want in 5 years? One filled with clarity, purpose, health, and quiet confidence? Then show up for that person now, especially when no one's watching. Let's be honest. Long-term thinking is not sexy. It doesn't give you immediate results, likes, or praise, but it builds the kind of life you don't need to escape from. Because here's the paradox. Short-term pleasure often leads to long-term pain, but short-term sacrifice, that's what creates long-term strength. Marcus Aurelius once reminded himself, ask yourself at every moment, is this necessary? That's what long-term thinkers do. They don't just act, they filter. They separate what's urgent from what's important. So the next time you're tempted to give in to instant gratification, pause for just a second and ask, what would my future self thank me for? That one moment of clarity can change everything. Long-term thinking isn't just about delayed rewards. It's about loyalty to your vision. It's a quiet kind of faith, the belief that your efforts will pay off even when you can't see the results yet. And when you think in years instead of days, you'll start to move differently, with more patience, more discipline, more peace, because you're no longer chasing quick wins. You're building a life that lasts. Part 8, detach from outcome, focus on process. Have you ever poured your heart into something, a dream, a relationship, a goal, and still felt the creeping anxiety that it might not work out? You're not alone. So much of our stress doesn't come from doing too little. It comes from caring too much about what we can't control. And this is where most people get mentally stuck. You want to know exactly how it will all turn out. Will your hard work pay off? Will they love you back? Will the plan succeed? But here's the Stoic truth. Peace doesn't come from knowing the outcome. It comes from surrendering your attachment to it. The more you obsess over the result, the more you tie your identity to something outside your control. And when that happens, your energy begins to shift from purposeful to anxious, from grounded to desperate. And that desperation, it clouds your judgment, drains your focus, and ironically, pulls you further from the result you're chasing. Marcus Aurelius said it best. Do not worry if things are beyond you. They are not yours to manage. So what is yours to manage? The process, the effort, the intention you bring to each step you take. Let me give you a simple example. Think about a garden. You don't get to control when the flower blooms. You can't force it to grow faster, but you can show up every day to water it, nourish the soil, pull the weeds. Success works the same way. When you become process-driven instead of outcome-obsessed, everything changes. Instead of, will I make it? You start asking, how can I show up fully today? not to prove yourself, not to guarantee a win, but because discipline and presence are worth practicing, regardless of results. Detachment doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care deeply, but you're wise enough to let go of what you can't command. It's not passivity, it's power. Because think about this. The person who stays calm while others panic, the one who continues to act even when they don't see immediate payoff, that person is unshakable. And in a chaotic world, that is real strength. When you're no longer desperate for an outcome, you become free to focus on mastery. You sharpen your skill. You deepen your patience. You build your resilience. And ironically, that's often when the results begin to show up. Not because you force them, but because you stopped chasing and started becoming. This is how high performers stay grounded. They trust the process, detach from the noise, and measure success by their alignment, not applause. So the next time your mind starts racing ahead, wondering when you'll get there, ask yourself, am I doing my part today? Am I bringing intention, effort, and presence? If the answer is yes, then let that be enough. Over time, you don't just feel calmer, you perform better. You live with more peace, more power, more presence. And in the end, that's the quiet superpower of detachment. Not that you don't want things, but that you no longer need them to feel whole. You show up fully, you let go freely, and life unfolds exactly as it should. Becoming limitless is a daily choice. Let me leave you with a powerful idea. Being limitless isn't some mythical gift you're born with. It's not a title reserved for the few or the lucky. It's a mindset, a discipline, a choice you make every single day. And the truth is, most people don't fail because they lack potential. They fail because they never train their mind to stay focused, resilient, and steady under pressure. We spend hours training our bodies, polishing our resumes, upgrading our devices. But how often do we train the most powerful tool we have, our mind? That's where true freedom begins. If you want to become unshakable, if you want to unlock that limitless version of yourself, it won't come from motivation alone. It will come from mental training, from choosing clarity over chaos, discipline over distraction, long-term purpose over short-term pleasure. And it's not about being perfect. It's about being intentional. Like a muscle, your mind gets stronger the more you challenge it. Not with pressure, but with presence. Not by forcing it, but by guiding it. Every time you choose a better thought, you're building strength. Every time you pause before reacting, you're reinforcing control. Every time you show up when it's hard, you're proving that your future isn't ruled by your past. Let go of the myth that you need everything figured out to begin. You don't. You just need to begin, to take the first step, and then the next, to show up when it's boring, when it's inconvenient, when no one is watching, because that's when you're actually becoming someone different. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. What you resist is exactly what's calling for your growth." So ask yourself right now, what excuse have you been telling yourself? That you're too tired, too busy, not ready, that life is too chaotic, that no one supports you? Here's the truth. Those aren't facts. They're habits. And like any habit, they can be replaced with new thoughts, new responses, new standards. The journey to becoming limitless isn't complicated, but it is uncomfortable because it asks you to do what's uncommon, to take ownership of your attention, to become emotionally self-reliant, to stop blaming and start building. And yes, some days it will feel hard. You'll be tired. You'll slip, you'll doubt, but you'll keep going because now you know the path. You know that training your mind isn't a one-time decision. It's a daily ritual. It's not glamorous. It's not always fun, but it's worth it. Because in a world where most people let their emotions control them, you will be calm. In a world chasing quick fixes, you will be focused. In a world that rewards noise, you will stand tall in quiet strength. So here's your invitation. Start today, no matter where you are, no matter what you've been through. You are not broken. You are not behind. You're just beginning with more awareness than ever. Build your inner fortress, one thought at a time, one choice at a time, one day at a time. And in doing so, you won't just change your habits, you'll change your identity. You'll become the kind of person who shows up, who follows through, who lives on purpose even when no one is clapping. That is what it means to be limitless. Not to be free from struggle, but to walk through it with strength, clarity, and conviction. So what will you choose today? To stay the same or to rise?